Oh, it's so hot. Breaking news. We got some good stuff today. We got some good stuff. The internet is divided. The internet is pissed off once again. For those who don't know, OpenAI, the company that owns ChatGPT, just released their new 4.0 image generation model. It basically just makes really good pictures, and it's really impressive. This is made by AI. This is AI. This is all AI. And this is the guy who was responsible for the company, Sam Altman. And recently, he updated his profile picture into this cool looking Ghibli character. But guess what? It's made by AI. And this has set off an absolute shitstorm on Twitter. This image generation software is so good that some guy actually remade the entire Lord of the Rings trailer in the style of Studio Ghibli. Got the ring perfectly executed. The painting style is perfect. I'm not gonna lie, this is like pretty crazy. Look at the faces of the characters. Like if you could picture them in a Ghibli movie, this is what they would look like. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, as terrifying this is pretty stunning. Now the internet right now is divided into two groups. Number one, people are pretty excited about it. It's admittedly cool technology and very impressive. And in a way, it's enabling people to make things that they wouldn't be able to make. If you could call that making, I don't know, but we'll get more into that later. And the other half of the internet is extremely upset. For those of you who don't know, Studio Ghibli, the animation studio that made Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, etc., is co-owned by someone named Hayao Miyazaki. And this gentleman does not like artificial intelligence. Here's a clip of him reacting to someone who's presented him with an idea that would include using AI in one of his projects.
極めて不愉快ですよね。そんなに気持ち悪いものをやりたいなら勝手にやってればいいだけで、僕はこれを自分たちの仕事をつなげたいとは全然思いません。極めて何か生命に対する侮辱を感じます。
Look at this dude's face. This dude's one life goal was probably to get in front of his hero, and he just got absolutely destroyed. Now, Miyazaki is a pretty grippy guy, and he's not a perfect human being either. But him and his studio have always adhered to the idea that humans make art. Now, it is something to be said, he has used CGI and digital art in there, but this is obviously his line, right? With this new AI, people have made a lot of stuff. This dude's remade Interstellar with the Ghibli style. I mean, it doesn't look perfect, but it's pretty crazy. Even major games are getting into it. So War Thunder, which is like a war plane MMO, has also generated some images using it. And this dude's used it to remake some really iconic scenes. We got Darth Vader, Scarface, The Godfather, and The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Now, a lot of you that are okay with AI art are probably watching this and thinking, cool, what's the big deal? Well, these are pretty wholesome versions, and this has been out for only a few hours, and people have been making some questionable things with it already. For example, this person has figured out how to get through the content filter and has captured JFK's last moments in this style. Don't know how I feel about that, and I don't have much to say about this one either. So, my friends, I will say, I understand that this is an exciting time for technology, but this is not good. This is not good. Now, if someone wants to learn art, spend 10,000 hours getting to this point of mastery where they can perfectly replicate the style of Studio Ghibli and then create an image like this, that's kind of impressive. But to be able to spit this out so rapidly with zero effort is where I have a bit of an issue. Katsuka, who is a pretty prominent animation advocate on Twitter, said, "So this is AI animation, and it's disturbing to see. I doubt Ghibli would ever have given permission for their work to be used to train these kind of tools. And I hope Hayao Miyazaki never sees these videos." Well, he's probably going to, unfortunately. This guy says, "This has to be stopped. I don't see how anyone can watch this garbo and think this should be legal. I guess if you hate art that much." So Sam Altman even got in on this, saying, "One man's slop is another man's treasure," reacting to people, I guess, saying that this is just AI slop. And this guy responds, "Does it add value to society? Does it make this world a better place? It's not slop if it does, but in many cases, does it?" M for Electric also says, "Ghibli's hard work for multi-decades is now your asset." This guy says, "Pressure makes diamonds, jealousy makes slop." A lot of people are starting to say that this is all happening because people hate artists and people are like so against artists and they're jealous of artists. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I think it's because people enjoy art so much that being able to to do it, being able to create with a push of a button is extremely exciting for a lot of people. Now, I will say, if you find that exciting, nothing is more exciting than taking the time to master something and then being able to create it yourself. If you're someone who is enjoying creating art prompts, I sincerely, with no judgment, want to push you to try and do art yourself. It is, if you like that feeling, it is incomparable to what you're feeling right now. And this sort of illustrates my point of what people think. Sam Biddle says one of the most interesting things about generative AI stuff is the extent to which it's revealed how many people have a deep, deep contempt, not just for artists, but for art itself. Now, if that were true, I feel like people wouldn't be using these prompts. If people didn't like art, all this crazy trend wouldn't be happening, but it's exploding right now. Everyone is doing it. I don't think that's true at all. This guy says, no one has contempt for art, bro. What are you on about? Most people don't really know how art is made, and honestly, once they find out, they kind of don't care and rather didn't know. Brutal. I don't know if I agree with that or not, but yeah, that's a pretty hot take. Killamine says, if I speak, I will become Twitter's villain of the week, so I will say nothing at all. She continues, I know everyone is just doing this for funsies, but these AI generations don't even look like the references you're feeding it. So why are you using technology that's trained off thousands of stolen work just for it to make something that's not even accurate? I mean, I will disagree there. This is popping off right now because it looks so good. I will say, I don't think this is right, by the way, but it does look incredibly impressive, which is why this is so dangerous. 787 said, the Studio Ghibli prompting is low-key depressing. If you can't currently understand why, you will eventually. And then Mingo responded, it's ironic that people are using AI to generate Ghibli-style art when the entire appeal of Ghibli's work comes from the fact that it's meticulously handcrafted by humans. Completely misses the point. And this guy says, sorry for having fun. So this seems to be the divide, right? It seems like artists, more creative people, and people who really appreciate Studio Ghibli's work, their creations are sacred and you shouldn't be bastardizing them like this. But there is a probably larger population of people that are just like, we're just having fun. I don't care. I don't really care at all. Like, I don't care about it. So the question is, where do you lie, right? Are these machines that are being trained on other people's work without permission and then spitting out other prompts? Are these original? Should these be respected? Or is this going to be the downfall of creativity as we know it? We don't really know. This trend has gotten so much attention on Twitter that pretty big names are starting to get their opinions out there. Adam Dietz, who is one of the co-creators of one of the coolest animes I've ever seen, Castlevania, responded to a tweet a few hours ago saying, watching the gleeful deconstruction and regurgitation of a generational talent, all while the entertainment industry continues to struggle, garners a unique sort of loathing I won't soon forget. And now that's an interesting take, because this gentleman, unlike most of the people that are throwing in their opinions, he works in this industry. So I think Adam really has his finger on the pulse when it's compared to the average person. So I think that comes with a lot of weight. And regardless of what you think, I think you really do need to consider who is being affected here and what it's going to do for them. So if the people that are being affected, like artists and creatives, are saying, hey, this sucks, I think it's worth listening to them, because the next time your industry is in trouble, you're gonna wish that people listen to you as well. And I don't necessarily think that's the biggest problem. I think the biggest problem is the callous response of the general audience towards artists who are genuinely complaining about a legitimate problem. This guy responded to Adam Dietz saying, double-edged sword to me. I get what it means for artists, but for people who want to just mess around and have a good laugh, this is a gold mine. So this guy's acknowledging, yeah, I know this sucks for people, but it's so memeable. Is there anything that sums up the 2020s more than that statement? I don't think so. So the question is, what are the repercussions of OpenAI doing this, right? Like, if they're taking people's intellectual property, especially someone who protects their intellectual property as much as Studio Ghibli does, or even Disney, what are the ramifications here? This guy seems to think that there's a good chance Studio Ghibli actually sues OpenAI. Their stills are presumably in the training data against their wishes, and OpenAI execs are actively promoting and encouraging the trend of users generating in their style. This is true. And he links to a post from Greg Brockman, who's a co-founder of OpenAI, saying ChatGPT image generation enables so much creativity, and he's linking to one of the Ghibli posts. This guy says the training data they use doesn't have any of the original work it was trained on. This case is going to be hard to prove. And this guy says, oh, go away. There are some other big names getting in on this as well. Yoshihiro Watanabe, who has produced Beastars, Trigun Stampede, and another number of animes, has said, the only Studio Ghibli is Studio Ghibli. That's why it's Studio Ghibli. Brian Merchant, who is the author of Blood and the Machine, says, it's profoundly depressing seeing all the Studio Ghibli-styled AI output tactically being used to promote OpenAI's latest product. Miyazaki famously called AI-produced art an insult to life itself. And this in turn is an insult to one of our greatest ever animators and artists. But some people who are pro-AI are saying that's not actually what he meant when he was commenting on artificial intelligence. This guy was saying that he called a poorly created AI platform disgusting because it animated terribly 8 years ago. If this guy just clicked on the video that he linked himself, he would see Miyazaki say, whoever creates this stuff has no idea what pain is whatsoever. So how can you create something that shows pain and is in pain, like it was a zombie, I think, when the machine doesn't even understand what it is? That's what he's saying. So it wasn't the fact that it was bad, right? He says, at the end, I feel like we are nearing to the end of times. We humans are losing faith in ourselves. So this guy's an idiot. It's very clear. It was reported yesterday that OpenAI will be doing $12.7 billion of revenue this year. Its CEO is advertising his product by infringing on the copyright of an artist who will at best do less than 1% of that on his lifetime. Let's talk about Hayao Miyazaki. I love to play with these tools too, but to actively market it or use it for profit is rotten, very rotten. This is the guy that created Sketch, by the way, the design program. Think deeper. What if Sam Altman actually allows Ghibli to utilize the data being created here? What if people in the UK are mainly creating images of their dog and people in the US something else? They could have valuable insights into what market may want to see in future. Like, the guy doesn't want to use AI. Miyazaki does not like AI, period. There's nothing to be said here. I think that's kind of the end of it. He doesn't want it used. Some fucking sales guy with the fancy tie telling him it's gonna raise his bottom line by 200%. He's gonna tell him to get fucked. I'm supposed to be impartial here, but do you realize how stupid you sound? Frederick says, awesome. The Ghibli style is now going to become oversaturated and associated with lazy and boring content. Can't wait for kids to grow up thinking the Ghibli movies are AI generated and instead of art that's crafted by excellent artists. While we're on the topic of Ghibli, let's check out something really cool. This gentleman had something interesting to share. He said, since Studio Ghibli is trending, worth noting the mind-boggling effort Hayao Miyazaki and his team put into a film. Each has 60 to 70,000 frames, all hand-drawn and painted with watercolor. This 4-second clip from The Wind Rises, which is my favorite animated movie of all time, took one animator 15 months to do. In the documentary, 10 Years with Hayao Miyazaki, the legendary Japanese filmmaker talks to one of his animators, Eiji Yamamori, after they complete the crowd scene. The exchange is gold. Miyazaki, good job. Yamamori, but it's so short though. Miyazaki, but it was worth it. This is the clip in mention. Look at the detail here. This to me is absolute artistry. This is the pinnacle of human effort. And this can be replicated with AI, but who cares? This is the amazing thing about art and creativity. Someone looks at this knowing this was made by humans, and this is amazing. It almost brings a tear to my eye. I'm getting a little emotional because of the amount of work that went into something so small. You could look at the exact same thing made by AI and feel absolutely nothing. The amazing thing about art isn't the end result, right? And I think a lot of people get this wrong. To me, it's about the process. I love knowing what went behind something to get this thing made, right? I think that's what art is. That's the essence of art. And AI will eventually get to a point where the end result is amazing, but there's no process. I mean, sure, like you could technically argue that like, oh, the years of coding that went into like creating this and all the pinnacle of human technology comes into this point, but that's the same for every single piece that it's going to generate from there on out, right? Each individual piece of true art has its own incredible story. And this incredibly powerful mode of storytelling is at risk of being lost and replaced by corporations who want to make a quick buck off of you, the people that are defending it. Within the first few hours of this technology being released, it's not just Studio Ghibli that's getting stuff remade in different styles, okay? For those of you who don't know, there's a very, very popular show on Apple TV right now called Severance, which I recommend everyone go watch. I think Apple TV has a 3-month free trial, so you don't even have to pay. This is not an ad, just go check it out. The show's unreal. Anyway, this guy has remade Severance in 8 famous animation styles. The first one's in some sort of like stop motion Wallace and Gromit kind of style, pretty creepy. This is in the style of Don Bluth, who did like some older Disney movies, I think like Anastasia and like a million others. This one's even been remade in the style of like that 1930s rubber hose style. Then we got Pixar, like even the retro anime from Toei Animation, and then like the Cartoon Networks of the 2000s. Now, this guy generated all this stuff in just a few hours. So is it really that impressive? It's kind of cool to look at, but it's I mean, it's pretty gimmicky. Look, I understand why some people are so upset, but I think there's a bit of a harsh truth to it. Most people don't care where their entertainment comes from. They just want to be entertained. So it's going to be up to artists to educate people why artists are so important. Okay, it's not gonna help where we're just yelling and screaming at each other and calling each other names. I used to just be a tech bro, right? I learned how amazing art was because someone taught me. They taught me the beauty of art, right? And now I can't even think about using this kind of program. Okay, new thing we're doing here on the channel is every time we have some bad news, I want to also offset it with some good news, or use this platform to at the very least highlight some cool creators that I want to share the spotlight on. This is Anas Abdin, who has created some really cool pixel art by hand. How cool are these? Completely made by hand. Speaking of Studio Ghibli, there's also this game that I've had my eye on for a while called Europa. So if you really like the Ghibli aesthetic and you want to check out like a really cool handcrafted game made with love, go check this out. This is one of my favorite artists called Ancho Pancho, who does these beautiful, beautiful handmade illustrations. Like, look at this, absolutely gorgeous. So great, I love that. Their work is so great, in fact, that I'm pretty sure that they've done collaborations with Studio Ghibli, or they've even animated on a movie. Don't quote me on that, I'm not 100% sure, but I know they've worked with Studio Ghibli. What do you think? Is this just AI slop, or is this some sort of new art revolution? Let me know. All right, I'm done.